Hi everyone, I'm so happy to see you today, and I hope that as much as I am enjoying what's happening at the moment, you will enjoy the kind of a journey that brought me from researching what is CLIL or CLIL approach through discovery of soft skills into a journey of my entire life. Just before we start, just briefly about my methodics, as you can see here in the mind map, this could be named as eclectic approach, like my methodics that I've been making use of in the last around 12 years. So you could see that there is lexical approach, functional approach to grammar. Dogme, mostly it's been teaching unplugged with minor use of various course books that I know that they can be really amazing. As for grammar, it's mostly deductive method because I really love people discovering things for themselves. I truly believe that this is the ultimate way for a person to memorize something and to really own something. You could see CBL, PBL, TBL, like practical based approach, analyzing various tasks, including business cases, making projects, anything that could be considered practical. You could also see an abbreviation TTT here, which does not stand for teacher talking time in this case. It's rather my preferable manner of actually introducing some new material in the class, which is test, teach, and test. And I'm going to use the word test numerous times during today's presentation. And you could also see something that kind of correlates with the title of my performance, which is a soft CLIL. And actually, I've been looking for various opportunities to, as fast as I can, understand what is it really that matters for my students, no matter what the age is. What are the spheres of life that the person would spend the free time on, no matter if it's Russian or English content. So given that most of my students have been individuals, this has been a soft CLIL approach to design tailor-made courses for everyone with an individual learning track, with an opportunity for micro-learning, agile planning, changing the goals, sometimes just in a couple of weeks, so being in an overall way flexible.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
Here is a brief glossary, and I would now give you just a couple of seconds to familiarize with the 5 major terms of today's presentation. So you can see the words sprint, which you might be familiar with from the development area, but I guess we could also apply it in language learning and teaching. We have CLIL, CLIL, which I think is getting more and more popular these days. We can see a term here that might intrigue some of you, which is soft skills. We all know about hard skills, and I will give you some more explanations on this and how I'm putting this into practice in my work. Something that could be more directly connected to physical workouts, but actually, again, it could be extrapolated towards language learning, is interval training. And again, I would shed some light onto it a bit later. And coaching approach. This could be envisioned as some kind of a general philosophy. It's not like I'm giving coaching sessions in my classes. It's rather some general paradigm of how I view my students and what kind of space I want to create while we are working and between classes. So how the story started, actually, I had been a freelancer for the entire 10 years with just some brief sparks of working in some language schools, but most of the time I've been enjoying my individual freedom, the ability to plan my own work and to choose the students I like. This is the format that I've been accustomed to. Actually, there's been no limitation, and still there isn't. Various formats of work, as I said, which some years ago landed up upon creating proprietary materials, which I have been making massive use of since then on. And this is the photo, actually, you can see in the slide, from the language club Говорильня, which was one of the few language clubs in Nizhny Novgorod, language clubs of English. And it's been my most favorable hobby for a couple of years. So this is where I started. But looks like something was actually lacking in this equation or in this puzzle. The thing is that I've always dreamt about experimenting with my own self, with my relations with people. And despite the fact that I used to have some groups of students, I always felt that this selection is way too small for me, and I would like to enlarge the scope of my action. So when all of a sudden, into my well-structured and organized, yet quite free-flowing life of a freelancer, self-employed English trainer, there came something really sudden. I was never looking for a job. I was never looking for a job in a language school. But then I got headhunted by a company called Link, where I'm working right now. In fact, it is Lukoil Engineering Skills and Competencies. And something made me took the job offer, which was a complete surprise for me. And this is how my career of a corporate trainer started almost a year ago. I sometimes asked myself, like, why I accepted this offer, because at that time I had a well-established personal practice and a set of students and a good word of mouth channel of advertising. And I was quite satisfied with the money, with the type of work, and so on. But there are some reasons, and there are some answers to this question, why. As I told you before, I was dreaming about a little bit bigger scope of working with groups, of an ability to really interact with a big number of people and deduce something out of that. And also, truth be told, for some people, what I'm going to say next might ring a bell. If you're ever got interested in Mr. Lalu, Organizations of the Future, or Spiral Dynamics thing, looks like sometimes there are some features or personal traits that for a freelancer, it's kind of hard to develop. They call it like the blue level. And here in the second bullet point, you can see some keywords that actually stand for this, that are encompassed in the blue level. A little bit more of rules in the life, a skill of working under someone's control, understanding, and the ability to integrate into corporate culture, and what's even more, a chance to walk towards shared goals. So I understood that actually in my personal development plan, these were the things that were kind of shaky, because I created the rules for myself and for my students. And I was wondering if I could integrate into something bigger than just me and my plan. So it was a kind of a self-challenge for me, and it's still on. I was already speaking about CPD. Actually, I think I attended Dmitry Nikitin's course on CPD. It was a couple of years ago, but I understood that it's a little bit hard for just one person to systematize the course and to keep commitment to the course, and sometimes to pay for the courses, because yeah, it actually sometimes costs an arm and a leg. So this was another motive for me to join the company. And research, which is actually the biggest thing here, much more room for research and faster development, of course. So these were the entries, these were the starting points. When I just joined the company, this is what I've faced immediately. As I was a more or less like free-flowing person, I found myself in a system full of principles and rules, the origins of which and sometimes the purpose of which I didn't know. I had to investigate this by myself. I had to build up connections with people from scratch. It was especially hard given that I was integrated in the company, but I was under the control of general director, and I wasn't actually integrated into any division where people have their classical bosses, they have their colleagues that share the room with them. I was all by myself, but still at the same time, I had to build up these people's connections even beyond the classroom. The other thing which one might consider as a drawback, but also it was quite stimulating for me at that time. It was a tight schedule for planning. So I had to design a course from scratch, actually in just around a week's time. And I felt the responsibility was so high. So it was quite a stressful start, but a very interesting one as well. Here you could see some term that would seem more common for working in a sales department, but actually I still have to work with some objections, because later on you will understand more who or why people could object to studying or to their employees studying, because the course that I designed, which I call the first sprint, and I'll tell you about it a bit later in much detail, it actually took around 4 hours of employees' working time for the entire 3 months. So I really had to make my point clear why these people need this training and what is the potential benefit for both them and their divisions in the company. And getting to the bright side of things, actually, I kind of kept to myself the so common and so beloved freedom of decision making, because I was, and I still am, the only English connected person in the company, the only English trainer. And actually, I can call myself a full owner of the entire business process of language teaching in the company or teaching something in English. So this is the good thing about the work. And I had to build up a totally new course type, of course, building up on my previous experience. But truth be told, it's been a discovery for my own self. I was even surprised how quickly it got acceptance. And off we went.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
Before I get into more detail on the first sprint, which was the first course that I conducted in the company back into the autumn of 2021, just some numbers about our results or about our procedures in the sprints. Please take a look. I've given 2 sprints so far. And overall, I've designed 6 tailor-made courses, which is not a big thing for me because I've been designing these courses my entire life, because this is this individual approach or micro-learning. 4 levels of English we've worked with, actually. These have been people from elementary to upper intermediate. To be precise, it's elementary, pre-intermediate, intermediate, and upper intermediate level we've worked with. So actually, we've just dropped out on beginners. That's it, which is quite interesting. So this has been a common course for everyone. But the people who joined the course, they were part of various business directions. Sometimes they were not connected at all. So it actually made some impact on the topics we've discussed and on the results we got. 55 students I taught overall, and I hope it's not the end to it. I was trying to calculate the number of hours. I think actually it's about this number that I've taught in total in the last 11 months. And now to the first sprint. You've already seen the word sprint in the glossary in one of the first slides. I guess that the connection is that it's something easy, it's something quick. You get some easy fixes or easy results. And actually, it's somewhere close to reality because it's been planned a 3-month course. I guess this has been an optimal duration for both me as a trainer and my students not to really get, lose motivation or get bored, but still keep concentration and stamina. I have dreamt of it being fully practical because you might remember that this is a course that people attended during their working hours and they are paid for their working hours. So I had to persuade the bosses of different divisions why it might help, why it is already helping, and why their employees should keep talking in English even when they go out of their classes. So I hope it has come to life. As for methodics, which I'm sure all of you teachers would be most interested in, I think we can call it like a soft CLIL approach because we actually concentrated on learning and discussing and practicing something interesting and relevant for us at the moment. It was the art of making presentations, business correspondence, talking on the phone through various messengers, and even the basics of negotiations. It was part of one course, and troubleshooting. So here you can see 4 titles, and actually it was the first sprint built up of 4 mini courses for which there was held a specific separate fully practical test. And English we used mostly as means of communication. So it helped to reduce the stress. It helped to really concentrate in our learning only on the most practical grammar. I've used my proprietary material for that. I've invented something that I could call a mini base or English base functional approach to grammar. And the collocations or word combinations that we've been practicing throughout the course, here we are following lexical approach, they've been mostly connected to the content of what you can see in the slide. Yeah, what do you really need in the body of your presentation? What are the most typical collocations for writing a naturally sounding email? What do you really need to speak up and to brainstorm and troubleshoot some problems? One more term that you've already seen on the glossary slide, it's interval training. From the definition, you could have inferred that actually, on the one hand, it's a very intensive training. So here you can see that for the entire 3 months, people have been studying almost every single working day, excluding Fridays, which was for me a methodology oasis and a little rest. And for them also, it was some break from studies, especially given that they have a short working day on Friday. So on the one hand, so it's a two-edged sword here. On the one hand, it's quite an intense course because I think originally people are not ready for studying more than 2 or maybe 3 times per week, especially if they don't know the trainer, it's a new person, they had never had such courses before. So there could be a lot of objections and there was a little stress at the start. But at the same time, it's just 1 hour every day, which makes up for the core of interval training, because current research, and I've been researching something about this topic, suggests that actually this kind of everyday or mostly everyday training for a short period of 1 hour proves to be way more effective than, for example, studying for 2 or 3 hours 2 times per week or 5 or 6 hours in a row 1 day per week. And actually, practice has shown that this is true to life. Some more information on the first sprint to share with you, dear colleagues. I've already mentioned that at the core of it, there has been the soft CLIL approach, which means that the original idea was that we actually study English. So we have at our primary the idea of studying English, but we kind of play with ourselves a little bit as kids. We a little bit fool our brain so that to reduce stress, and we do it through some other activity. But this is just how it started. At the start, There was this functional grammar and vocab, speaking up, breaking the language barrier, creating the language environment at the core of the project. And business skills, as a nice and well-desired, especially by employers, business skills, presentations, correspondence, telephone, negotiations, and troubleshooting. There was a chance to immediately put the skills that we've learned and shared in the classroom into practice, which I guess it's one of the fundamentals of CLIL approach. The question is, how could I make it happen? The first thing, it was our rule of thumb that from the first day of our studies, and actually it hasn't stopped so far, all our correspondence, all our talks by the coffee machine, meetups in the canteen, they should be held in English, because for CLIL to work properly, there should always be one teacher during the course, and this teacher should make use of just one language, and there should be this language communication non-interrupted, at least during the entire course. Also, at that point, around a year ago, some of the students, I cannot say that all of them, some of the students had a necessity of having some business correspondence with some contractors, subcontractors, partners, or clients. Some of them had to have business trips, and I was dreaming about them making presentations or taking part in negotiations in English. And also, we have a procedure in our company, which is part of one of our, in my opinion, best divisions, which stood for like a center of management for increasing operational efficiency, which was always open for people's proposals for improvements. It's a specific type of document following some template where people actually propose their innovative ideas about how to enlighten the daily life of the company, some operational business processes, and so on. And one of our mini courses in the sprint, troubleshooting on Thursdays, actually had this thing at stake. So we brainstormed for potential problems or potential rooms for improvement. And as a result of our course, we made some real proposals for improvement that actually worked. As I've already mentioned before, it was all within the working day, which has, I think, both benefits and drawbacks. And as for drawbacks, I already mentioned some objections. Sometimes people were tired because they've just been working on some work project. But at the same time, I guess that it affected their performance as well in a good way, because for them it was like another working task, but not just some English class that they would attend after work just for fun. So as for results, yeah, a little bit of intrigue here. So the first thing that I can notice every single day, even after the first sprint has ended, which happened on the 4th of February, 2022, my former students, they keep communicating with me in English. It means that this part of the CLIL approach, where there is no Russian even outside the class, it's working. And they kind of have this reflex or something, some kind of a habit right now. And they have this association that, yeah, this is the person who will always speak English with us. And when they see me, they forget about Russian. I'm not really sure. I don't have the information about some number of promotions that they got after it, but I can say that actually the people who've undergone the training were among the most progressive people, career-oriented people, and I hope that they are doing well at the moment. There was also one little project connected to our first sprint. So first of all, we created our word bank. We were making use of a Lingualeo program at that moment, working through the teacher's mode. So we have created a glossary for these 4 business directions that other sprints can be making use of. And some practical collocations, of course. And also, when students were were undergoing their final test for presentations mini course, which actually was a task to give a real presentation with a PowerPoint for around 5 minutes and then handle a Q&A session, I asked them to prepare a specific glossary of minimum 10 terms or collocations that are immediately connected to what they're working on in their division. I asked them to build their work presentations around that, so it was at the core of their presentations. And right now, we have a huge glossary which can be used, for example, for some people from subsidiary companies, from other Lukoil companies, some people who have never known what we've been doing, just to get the first sense of what we are into. We have published this in our internal portal. We have an idea of adding some, of making it open source for people to add some new words when they have an idea. So actually, this is one of the products that we got after the first sprint. Especially given that it was meant to be experimental and we never knew how it would work out, because there's been quite enough content and real business skills. And sometimes I understand that it was hard, especially for print media students who didn't have a chance to, in a relaxed mode for 6 months to break that barrier, to speak about some nice things. We immediately jumped into the business context, but they made it. And one more thing, I'm actually now in the process of finalizing a book to describe the sprints, to describe this approach, to describe the CLIL at the core, to describe our results, with some practical recommendations, how to give better presentations, how to be smart in writing emails and not irritate people, but rather charm them, and so on. So you can see a lot of products after the first sprint, but it's not all to that. Oh, just a couple of words about our routines. Actually, it's been recently that we started our relocation to the new office, and actually we had to work in extreme conditions because there was no room ready for us. This is, for example, the picture from our 3rd floor hall. There were people around. Our students were sitting on a couch, and this was all we got actually. So just some whiteboard. It's good enough that there's been some nice scenery around, but actually I think that if people are ready to practice, no matter how many colleagues are bustling around. Sometimes we had classes in the street, we had classes in various rooms which were not supposed to work as English classrooms. I think that it helped students become more proficient, and more self-confident and relaxed. A little bit more serious information. I would like to zoom in a little bit. Actually, this is how, if I'm using the word sprint, then let me also use another development term, roadmap. This is actually how the whole procedure looks like. So at first, when I came to the company in September, I invited all of the offline workers to undergo an oral placement test, and I assigned them various levels. Then we had a specific skills test for the people whom I designed to be the first sprint students. How good are they at presentations, negotiations, and so on at the start? And as I told you before, the course consists of 4 mini courses, Monday presentations, and so on. So no matter what the mini course we're talking about, so this is the schema. In the first week, we have, in the first 3 weeks, we have 3 regular classes, all different topics, all different results and different practice. After that, we have a revision week, then 3 new classes, then the second revision, and the final 3 classes. So actually 9 classes with new information, the final revision, so 3 revision classes, and a test, which actually just tests their practical ability, and it's just a pass or no pass without any grades. What might be also of interest for you, it's some kind of binary type of certification. Actually, I've given out certificates to all of the students who managed to survive till the end of the course, because there were like 1 or 2 students who dropped out due to various reasons. But to get a certificate of completion, people really should demonstrate the practical skills at hand so that I can guarantee that they can be sent to negotiations or they could really deliver a presentation or at least understand what the speaker is saying on the phone. If I wasn't sure of their ability or they haven't passed all the tests, I just gave them out a certificate of attendance. Yeah, this is how it worked. Actually, then the second sprint started after just a little gap of around 1 month, but I really want to show you something. Yeah, sorry, let's move on here. There has been a discovery. Apart from this interest of getting first results of my happiness, that, oh yeah, it's really working even with pre-intermediate students. There's been some interesting discoveries connected to people. I understood due to my experience of seeing the same people every single day for 1 hour. So I understood that despite my wish to objectively perceive them all as nice students, good people, this is what is part of our professional code of conduct, I understood that subjectively, it was not like that. And truth be told, some people turned out to be quite easy and nice for me. Some were very hard to deal with. I started to question myself, what's the reason? What is it that is making one person so different from the other one? Yes, exactly what you see here. So I'm trying to be frankly speaking here. And also I was looking at how this classroom group interactions going on. When I was in the shade, when I was looking at how people treat each other, I understood that some people are great team players, while some are very good in their own intellectual skills, but they're so individualistic and they bring less value to the group. I understood something about people's ambition and energy. And this actually brought me to discovering that the reason for this difference was the so-called soft skills. You've already seen it at the start of the presentation. And I started my research. This is a typology or taxonomy I'm mostly making use of even now. It's actually the result of McKinsey Global Institute research. I think it was held in 2021 with more than 15,000 of respondents. And actually, it's a well-established taxonomy of around 56 skills that we could consider soft. You could see here, and I would zoom it in now for your convenience, that we have 4 main groups of soft skills like mental, interpersonal, connected to self-leadership, and even digital, and some groups and subgroups inside. And I really started, when I ended the first sprint, I really started to think, let me get back. I started to think of how could I describe my students beyond their English level and beyond their ability to make presentations, do troubleshooting, and so on. And I understood that, yes, at least it takes some kind of qualitative description, like, for example, this person is very good at structured problem solving and has great logics, but maybe a little bit lacks empathy, cannot understand that what he's saying now to the colleague might be a little bit off. Why? This person is so good in resolving conflicts and creating good atmosphere. So I started to analyze my current students through the prism of soft skills. And actually, it changed the second sprint as it arose. Let me get back. In the second sprint, it was seemingly a chaos of different courses, but actually it was a bigger scope of experiment for me as a trainer. We continued with what we had for the first sprint, but enlarged the course, making it just 1 month bigger. You can see in the first line that this time it's been elementary students to undergo the course. So I actually understood that they kind of need this breakthrough period. And as I told you before, I've invented some proprietary approach to functional grammar acquiring, which I called mini-base. So it's been their first month where we broke the barrier in 16 or 17 classes, and then they underwent, and actually they're finishing next week. This is their test week. They underwent exactly the same as the first sprint, of course, with easier explanation, adapted content, and so on. You might remember that on Thursdays in the first sprint, we had troubleshootings. Actually, we made use of some of the existing business instruments, how to brainstorm for solving problems, but also we invented some of our own. And we understood that it was so good and it was so effective and people could really make use of it in their work. So we decided to separate it into a standalone course on troubleshooting. As a result, yeah, people need to troubleshoot some problems and come up with practical solutions. We also had a GE course. And what's of most interest for me here is given the first sprint and some discovery and some reflection afterwards has given rise to a separate soft skills course where I just took what seemed to be most common soft skills. You might remember McKinsey Visual, and we dedicated every week to one specific skill. For example, critical thinking skill. In the first class, I gave them some brief explanations, and it was mostly a talking class. And in the second day, we had some practical exercises, questionnaires, games to train the skill. And I gave them an opportunity to become trainers themselves. So they also prepared activities for peers and for me as their peer at the moment. We also are practicing now language coaching support. Again, it's for the first sprint students who don't have a chance to study, to go through interval training because they don't have so much free time. It's bi-weekly meetings for just 1 hour with common group goal setting at the start. We made use of one of the popular international institutes approach. And actually working on our common goals during these 1 hour meetings, language practice. And in the next 2 weeks, these people study English by themselves and fill up a learner's diary. And then we could exchange some comment. What is the best thing for me here, actually, it's been my dream coming true. It was what came out of a soft skills course. In one of the weeks, we touched upon team building or team management soft skill in interpersonal block. And then I had an idea. Why don't we try to really see how soft skills work, how well we cooperate with people, creating a very short-term, little scope project with people from different divisions. So it brought us to an idea of a cross-functional team project. And we tried to use our soft skills and also a Belbin test for team roles. And we tried to see how we play different team roles, what we're really good at, what makes communication hard at some points of time. So it's been an infield discovery. And I think it deserves saying that all that I've mentioned so far has been held in 100% English with no Russian at all. Yeah, this is something about my ambition, and sorry for the Russian thing here, but actually, I guess that this sprint, making use of a soft CLIL approach, is just one step towards something that could seem impossible in a Russian-speaking company. You know, some kind of a TED Talk thing, creating such a culture where people could really deliver great presentations in English and communicate with correspondents and so on. And this is how I see it. Yeah, we always need some kind of foundation, break the barrier, leave the fundamentals of grammar to be speaking more or less well. And then people undergo the first sprint. And then soft skills course helps them to understand themselves better and make communication more effective and believe in themselves. And finally, they could deliver these TED Talks. So let's keep this for now. Maybe just a couple more words on what is really soft, because I know that it might be confusing for some people. It's some kind of set of maybe even character traits and also skills, not only interpersonal skills, but also self-awareness, analyzing my own strong points, stress resistance, critical thinking, creative thinking, that make me effective, happy, that make me smart and outstanding, no matter what kind of work I'm actually doing, no matter what my hard skills are. And I know that these days people are getting more and more interested in developing these soft skills in their workplaces too. Why CLIL? I guess that I've already given some insight on why it's my preferable method, but actually, I think it arises from a teacher's egoism. A teacher also wants to have fun in the lessons. And if you're lucky to meet interesting people, like interesting students, and now I'm working among very interesting professionals who are really masters of what they're doing, they have different backgrounds. It's a chance for us to learn more about each other and to study the world together in English.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
And where leads the journey? Because I entitled my presentation CLIL, the soft journey. Actually, it ended up into some kind of career twist. Because also the soft skills interest, I got really crazy about this. I started speaking about these soft skills everywhere to all the people who were ready to listen. And actually, I also created an LSS project. This is a procedure in our company. It's Lean Six Sigma methodology on increasing efficiency. But my research subject has been soft skills and how they really help the company grow and develop. Also, now I'm part of a new division, this time more fully integrated into the company's operation, not as just a standalone hired professional as I was before. And actually, we're opening a new research and operation direction connected to soft skills, which I'm working in, still being an English trainer. So actually, this is where my story goes. And now, just to wrap up our presentation, I've forgotten to tell you that I've also some time ago also attended a coaching school and actually became a professional coach. And I'm using this in my profession, the coaching approach that I mentioned. So they recommend sometimes asking yourself some questions which might seem uneasy at the start, but maybe you'll benefit from them. I would ask you right now to think about your class and to think about you and your class this time, not about your students' needs and goals. And I would like you to imagine or feel or think, what would you like to do in your class that would make you really happy? And there is one more question I'd like to address to you. Now getting into your students' shoes, trying to feel what they might take interest in. What would your students like to be doing in class? Because I think it's all connected to this CLIL approach, which gives us so much freedom in what might be happening in the classroom. And thirdly, it's not only the action level, but more of a feeling level. How would you like them to feel in your classroom? How would you like them to feel before they open the door to your classroom or before they follow the Zoom link if you are training online? It's not necessary to answer them right now. It would be nice if you just recall some of these later on. And it would be nice. I would be happy if it gives you some insight. And actually, it's time for us to finish. This is some contact detail in case you want to reach out for me, maybe discuss some professional stuff. I'm always open to that. Please keep in touch.